I think this is a very interesting time in tech. So I've been in tech for 20 years. I have reviewed some cars in the past, maybe like total of 3 or 4, and it was really because those were the times when new technologies were being introduced, like touch screens and a bit of like the collision detection. Basically these were tech related stuff on vehicles. And now is no different, but I've noticed that even my colleagues know, like maybe this past year we've had so many tech journalists and content creators start to review cars, and not just any car but EVs like this. Like I'm driving the Vinfast VF5, which is an EV that's built by the Vin Group, based in Vietnam. So they're pretty much like a conglomerate, that builds a lot of things. They're into IT, tech, education, AI, and mobility, real estate. So yeah, you pretty much get gist. I think there's a reason why journalists in tech are being asked to chime in with cars like these, no? And because it's like, it's not really the car experience but a tech experience that people are looking for. For instance, when you're looking at this car, you have what you call a battery subscription model. So if you buy this car, if you're looking at buying this car, you actually have 2 options. So the first option is a battery subscription, and the other option is to outright just buy the car. And a battery subscription is essentially like any other tech product that requires a subscription, like Office 365 or the pro version of ChatGPT or Google Gemini. And there is some significant difference in pricing. So for example, if I do decide to buy this car on a battery subscription, I'm going to be spending less than 1 million pesos. So it's about 900,000 pesos. Sorry, let me check my notes. It's actually 992,000 pesos. So just a bit shy of 1M. And if I do decide to get it without the subscription and just buy the whole thing outright, it'll be about 1.191 million. So that's a difference of 200,000 pesos. And what does this mean? No, it means that the heart of the car is the battery, like a cell phone. And like a cell phone, there is such a thing as battery degradation. This is a car that you charge on a wall socket, just like any other gadget. And as you spend more time charging, the battery does degrade. The benefit of availing of the battery subscription is that you don't really have to worry about the battery degrading anymore, because VinFast will keep changing this every when needed. I think I believe that if it should not go below 70% degradation, and if it does, they're going to start replacing that. So it's always like you always have a brand new battery. So it's about 5,800 pesos per month for 1,500 kilometers of driving, right? If you do the math, that's roughly 50 kilometers a day. Now, so knowing that, you're really gonna ask yourself, am I willing to spend an extra 200,000 pesos to get the car outright without any monthly recurring cost that I have to pay in addition to the charging, right? If let's say I'm charging at home, or how much am I driving per day, right? So if you are driving more than 50 kilometers per day, it really might not make sense, because you're probably going to want to avail of a higher subscription tier, no? I think the way you'd want to look at this is to check what you were driving on fossil fuels and how much you were spending per month. So let's say if you were spending less than 5,000 pesos a month for gas on your car, then maybe it probably wouldn't make sense. But if you're spending a bit more and doing just daily city driving, then yeah, I guess it might make sense. Again, it's a case-to-case basis on what your lifestyle is like. Me, for instance, I really just have two instances, two ways that I drive. So one is I pick up the kids from school. It's really just a 5-kilometer drive, one way. So it's I would say 8 to 10 kilometers of driving per day. But if I do need to go out and attend an event, for example, and it's usually driving from Parañaque to BGC, or Parañaque to Pasay, or from Parañaque to Makati, I'd be doing about, let's say, 15 to 20 kilometers one way, right? So that puts me at about 40 kilometers per day driving, right? Another thing you have to consider is number one, are you on a if you only have one car, and if this is the car that you decide to choose, an EV, you won't have coding, right? So you don't have to worry about like, oh no, it's a Monday or Tuesday, I can't drive because it's coding. So EVs are exempted from coding in the whole metro. That's one. Number two, is there a free charging station near me where I live, right? So I do know many Ayala malls, most if not all, have free charging. BGC has, Alabang has. Yeah, most parking lots in an Ayala mall have. Mega World malls do have. Some gas stations also do have. So that's something you may want to consider. A friend of mine who drives 2 EVs said that he hasn't really paid for gas, and he's able to save that money by charging in the city, parked in a city, right? So if you live within the city, I think it's much easier. You can really just leave your car in the mall and then go do about your business, or even go to work and come back and your car is fully charged. So you really don't have to worry about that. This car gets about, I would say, 300 kilometers on a single charge. Right now, if you look at this, so I'm at 88% idle. Yesterday, it was at around 95%. So staying idle in the car probably depletes battery by about 1% for several minutes, like maybe talking for more than 15 minutes, just the 1% charge drop with the air conditioning turned on. And so yeah, a full charge is about, let's say, 300 kilometers, right? And if you're doing 50 kilometers driving per day, I would say you'd have a week worth of juice for that. I really think that choosing an EV or upgrading your car to an EV, it's not actually an easy decision to make, but I think it is the way forward, given that we have so many available now. Hey guys, so I spent about a week with the new Vinfast VF5. This is actually the second Vinfast that I've driven. The first one being the VF3, which I drove a few weeks ago. You can actually check out our video to see my reactions to that ride. It's like driving a golf cart with air conditioning. It's actually a pretty interesting ride. But if you're the type of person who wants a ride that's more like a car, then the VF5, which is the next higher model, might be the thing that you would want to consider. I think the question many people would ask me is it a joy to drive? And my answer is yeah. I took this thing on SLEX. I took it within the suburbs, and yeah, it really does feel like I'm driving a Toyota Vios or a Honda City. So it really has that. It's a better feel. It feels like more of a sedan. There's more space in the back. The hatchback design is it's pretty much like your fossil fuel car, when it comes to the driving experience. Now, another question that I'm asked is it really different from a regular fossil fuel car or a gas car or a diesel car? And there are some interesting insights I'd like to share after doing this. So I guess I'm a changed person after experiencing driving an EV. And I want to put this into context. I think your mileage will vary depending where you live and what you do for a living and where you go to commute, right? So I live in the suburbs in the south, and I frequent the BGC, Makati area to attend events. And I also pick up my children about 5 kilometers away from the house. So I guess when you look at the brochure and you see that you're rated for around 300 kilometers on a full tank, something like that, that actually varies. It's not exactly around 300. It might be more, it might be a bit less than that, or maybe even a bit more depending on the way you drive, right? So if you're the type of person who goes on the highway all the time, you'll notice a drop in the mileage. And this is nothing to do with the brand, right? This is more to do with you moving from gas to an EV, because there are many factors that affect battery life. I guess when the best example I can give is, let's say when you're using a phone that's rated, let's say 5,000 milliamperes, and you use it for social media, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, versus 3 hours of gaming, of course the battery is going to drain faster, right? So that's what we mean when we say the mileage will vary depending on what you use it for. So if you're just driving along suburbia doing 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, you're going to get the maximum amount of battery per charge, right? Mileage per charge. But if you are always on the highway, it's going to deplete a bit faster. Now, I guess from a tech standpoint, I want to address another issue, which is, of course, charging. I remember back in the day when laptops and Palm Pilots and cell phones, well, not really cell phones, because we were all using these really long battery life Nokia phones, but laptops. Coffee shops like Starbucks and Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf and Bose Coffee would always have free Wi-Fi, and you could plug in your laptop to charge, mostly for free, sometimes with a cost like 50 pesos per hour. So I think we are in that awkward phase of EV charging now, at least here in the Philippines. Back in maybe like a year or two ago, when I started to notice malls having 2 or 3 slots for EV charging ports or charging slots, like the whole parking lot would be filled except the EVs, because no one really owned it before. And now, so I just came back from a ride in the Alabang area, and I looked through Alabang Town Center and Festival Mall, searching for the parking slot, and the attendant would always tell me, "Sir, wala yung slot, may gumagamit pa." So that really tells you 2 things. Number 1, dumadami na ang mga EV charging, mga EVs sa Pilipinas. Before, those slots would be empty. Now, dumadami na. So, it really means to say that the adoption is there, right? People are starting to buy more and more electronic vehicles. But also number two, the ecosystem or the infrastructure is also trying to catch up. So it's come to that point where I guess the manufacturers are also wondering, hey, maybe we should put more of these. So like in a parking lot that's 3 stories tall, with let's say 300 slots, you only have 2 slots for EVs, right? 2 charging slots. Of course, people are going to assume you're going to charge at home, right? Which is really the best case scenario. You really should be doing this at home. But right now, it's really an added benefit, right? So I think this brings me back to your mileage will vary. Your mileage may vary statement. And to avoid this whole notion of anxiety, like, oh no, why is all of a sudden my battery going down when I'm driving in the highway? Oh, it's because you're really powering through the highway at 60 to 80 kilometers per hour versus, let's say, a suburban area which is 20 to maybe at most 40 kilometers per hour, right? So knowing that should help you decide whether you should get a subscription-based system or buy the EV outright, like lock, stock, and battery. Why? Imagine your cell phone. Think about it. How long do you usually have your cell phone before you change it? Some people change it every year, right? They buy a new phone every year. They buy the new iPhone every year. Some people buy a new cell phone every 4 years. Like me, I actually, even though I review a lot of gadgets, I usually stick to 1 or 2 phones, which last me 2 to 4 years, right? So I only changed my phone recently after the pandemic, but before the pandemic, I had the same phone, right? But of course, when you do this and you're playing games and you're consuming a lot of, you're doing a lot of high graphics intensity apps, the battery will degrade faster, right? So you will see it usually at max battery, 97%, 96%, right? So this is going to be true for any battery-based system moving forward, right? So that means your car's battery is also going to degrade in time. It's not like an engine where you tune it up and then you clean it and okay na siya. It really degrades. So, are you the type of person who's a bit anxious and wants to change, to make sure that every year you have a better battery or your battery is always in tip-top shape, but you don't drive, you more or less know your driving regimen. Like, I only drive 1,500 kilometers in a month or 3,000 kilometers a month. You should know, you more or less have that on paper na. If that's the case, maybe the subscription-based system works for you because you don't have to worry about degradation. Vinfast will change the battery for you when it degrades. So you always have a tip-top shaped battery all the time, right? But if you're the type of person who just really wants to own the car and go through, it's like owning a cell phone or owning an iPhone. It's like owning, I guess, 10 iPhones or more. Then maybe buying it outright is really just for you. You don't want to pay extra money, right? You live near a charging station, so you don't want to pay for extra electricity, right? Or you don't mind, plugging it in at home, right? So it really depends. It really depends on your driving style. If you're always on the highway, of course, it's going to deplete faster. If you're always driving in suburbia, panghatid sundulan ng mga bata, pang grocery, that sort of thing, then you should be more on that side. So I guess it really depends, no? I have friends who own a Vinfast, right? And iba-iba yung mga use case nila. Like, meron akong friend who owns the VF3 and then she says that it's really just for driving around the subdivision and for, grocery, picking up the children. So for that sole purpose, it's okay. They don't really bring it to the highway, right? So the VF5, however, This one feels more like a car that you can bring to the highway and enjoy, right? Not to say that yung previous model hindi, no? Sinasabi ko lang, it feels better. It has a better driving experience, like driving a real sedan, right? So, yun. I really hope that these insights help you make that purchasing decision. Vinfast is a very interesting car brand because unlike all the other brands out there, for example, like of course you have Tesla that just came in from the States, then you have all the other Chinese brands like BYD and all these other brands. Vinfast is actually brought in by our fellow Southeast Asian country, Vietnam. So medyo interesting siyang tingnan. So it's like being able to support a Southeast Asian neighbor, no? So ayun, I hope my insights bring you one step closer to making that decision in number one, switching to an EV, and number two, maybe considering a VinFast car like the VF5. Bye!